A lot of y'all worried about the Diamond Flask nerf, but it's all good, I got you. There's this keystone, Dance with Death, that actually gives you permanent crit strike lucky all the time. But wait, there's more. Not only does it do this, it also makes damage from those hits that are crits also lucky. So basically you're rolling lucky twice. You get this thing through the Brittle Restraint Timeless Duel, which is pretty expensive early in the league, but honestly I think it's really worth it, because it makes both your notables and small passes quite a bit better. In fact, for small passes it gives dexterity, which is really big for a lot of my builds, which are spellcasters which tend to really lack dexterity. So this is a huge keystone, especially for lightning builds. So I have planned out a Herald of Thunder Inquisitor for next league, without using any flasks, and I am using this keystone. And my DPS goes from 5 mil DPS to 9 million. Just by putting this thing on. This is like an 80% increase in damage, which is totally worth giving up a helmet slot for. Now obviously, there's two huge downsides. The first one is this damage from enemies critical strikes is lucky against you. I personally don't really care. I play softcore. If I get one shot, I'm gonna get one shot. But basically, it makes you more likely to get one shot. Now if you want to bypass this, you can just go for Assassin, but you can go for Brass Dome. I think there's a Belt of the Deceiver that also reduces damage from crit strikes. There's ways to mitigate it. I personally don't give a fuck. Now the second downside is quite a bit bigger, and this is the idea of not being able to use a helmet at all, and that's the biggest downside about using this keystone. Now when you don't use a helmet, it's not just that you're losing the stats on the helmet, it's not just that you're losing your helmet enchant, it's that you become a lot more socket starved on your build. So those of you who use Cam's Roots in past leagues know exactly what I'm talking about, especially if you're playing something like an Elementalist that wants to run golems. Rip. It's really fucking expensive, resource-wise, to give up sockets. There's also a huge bright side to the fact that you can't use a helmet that people aren't considering. And that's that you don't need to think about a helmet to use. Which sounds really troll, but for my room temperature IQ brain, this is a huge benefit for build creation. The final caveat of course is that at the very top end, you won't be using this. Good crit builds tend to hit pretty close to crit cap. Things like Aura Stackers and Eternity Shroud builds tend to run a Watcher's Eye that both gives crit from Wrath and Hatred, and those get close to crit cap really easily. Of course, the most obvious solution to these Diamond Flask nerfs is to just play Essence Drain.